Hello YouTubers. As with the last time I made a video on this particular series on this matter, feels very old school, but it's good all the same to be doing it. It's such a long time since I did. As you'll deduce from the title, we're once again looking at Onision-related literature, but, as I should warn for anybody that is looking for another version of sort of Strange Eons, I'm not in fact looking at any of the Onion Boys' work. It so happens that I am looking at a piece of literature written by his mother, because it's died down a bit now. When people were sort of piling on him, wondering where all this nonsense started, and people were analysing his literature as well to see where his mind was going. I happen to remember a long time ago that his mother was a YouTuber as well, and she had her own blog, which I'm not going to tell you the name of, and I'm not going to let you say it in the comments. And I thought, well, is there a way of reading it online? And I found out there was. Again, I'm not going to tell you his mother's name or username, so for now we'll say that the title of the book is Mrs. Crow of the Onion Patch. That's a wonderful title for a book. So this is literally Onision-related literature because she is related to him. And as you may recall, if you've followed me looking at the first chapter, or first chapter and a half I think I read, it's rather weird. What often happens in works of literature, it doesn't even have to be a vampire, it might be someone becoming a werewolf, it might be someone becoming a ghost. There are loads of examples in literature, in film, in so many others where the central character becomes something that they used not to be. And then little by little they come to terms with what they now are. Is it not the golden rule in so many genres? Show, don't tell. But this is all tell and not show. She's trying to show, but having started the entire thing by saying that she wants to be a vampire one day and telling you that someone bit her, it's a bit of a dead giveaway. Where I left off, she was seeing her doctor. It's in a pointless scene because we already know she's a vampire, so why even have that there? I know I'm picky, I know I'm choosy, but other people are going in far greater depth of the Onion Boys' work than I am being here, so let's go ahead. Where I left off, Doctor asks her if she thinks she might be pregnant. She thinks no, she's too old, and she then explains that she hasn't eaten since lunchtime yesterday. I'm still not hungry, I have no appetite, none at all. It was established before that she liked her pastry, and now she doesn't. Yes, my skin itches. Oh, surprise, surprise, the sun is out, so yeah. I have a headache, and I'm very disappointed that twice baked and fresh almond croissants suddenly smell terrible to me. Can you imagine saying that to a doctor? She makes us feel like children by bringing in a word, by saying, I'd say your problems are all related to hyperosmia. And then she asks, what's that? Is it really bad? Hyperosmia, I ask, sounding out every syllable of my diagnosis slowly. Hyperosmia is simply a heightened sense of smell. True enough, it is. Here's the other cliche. She's a vampire now, so her sense of smell is heightened. So what do I do for hyperosmia? I ask, wincing when I smell the doctor's breath, because she had obviously eaten onions with her lunch. Good job it wasn't garlic. And likely drank her coffee black. What a monster. One cliché she's missed out in the vampire lore, and that's that she looks in the mirror and sees her skin going rough, whereas in some vampire stories, vampires aren't able to look in the mirror because they're dead like ghosts, they have no soul. Not only does nobody believe her, but she doesn't really belong there anymore because it's a website for people who wanted to be a vampire, but she kind of is one now. And one of them asks to see a photo of her new fangs. She said, I hadn't really thought about it, but I certainly didn't have any. No wonder my e-friends all thought I was nuts. Oh, well, you're long behind anyone else. Anyone who remembers you on YouTube knew that you were nuts. Sorry, I shouldn't associate her too much with the character, but really. So she goes shopping, she gets a lovely new dress, since she's lost weight, and she can hear another woman trying on her clothes. Her hearing has heightened, her sense of hearing has gone up. But she says she doesn't want to listen too much longer because there's a chance that she'll want to kill her. Okay. Dashing from my dressing room with my work clothes under my right arm and dress tag still dangling from my back, my fangs protracted, I raced past the long line at the cash register, hoping not to be noticed. Yeah, fangs out and running out with the clothes with the tags attached. That's a real way of not wanting to be noticed, isn't it? Once outside, she says a lazily dressed man, whatever that means, starts eyeing her up and flirting with her. And she finds out it's a man who previously called her a hippo, but now she's less of a hippo because she's lost weight. Now, spoiler alert, she does in fact attack him. It had to happen eventually, didn't it? It's a vampire story. But here I want to just bring you out a little bit, because I know that it's kind of unfair to compare to other works of literature. I know I did it at the beginning of the previous blog I made in this series. But given that almost everywhere online where you can buy books that has this on it has many stars on it, in the same way that the Onion boys all have very low scores, whether because she herself is scoring them or because her sycophant minions on her previous website all think she's wonderful. Let's go right to the top and read an extract from Dracula. Now, Dracula is an excellent example of what I was talking about before. It's hard to imagine it now, but the first ever readers of Dracula wouldn't necessarily realise that the central antagonist was meant to be a vampire. It's something that comes to the reader slowly but surely. Jonathan Harker goes to Transylvania. Everyone who hears that he's going to Castle Dracula is afraid, and one person even gives him a cross to wear around his neck. There's loads of wolves howling as he goes in the carriage. There's a lot of build-up, a lot of foreshadowing before he eventually gets there. Then he eventually does meet Dracula, and at one point sees him climb out of the window and down the wall like a bat. You know, so you kind of get the idea that this is not an entirely human antagonist. If we're talking about female vampires, like the character, like Mrs. Onion, then let's read the... Bram Stoker never refers to the women in Dracula's castle as the brides. That's something that came subsequently in the films. But it's the bride scene. It's the Dracula bride scene to all intents and purposes. So this is how you write about female vampires attacking or being about to attack someone. And that, my friends, is how you write a vampire story. Sorry for the long extract, but really I have to read that to get the point across. Yeah, that is how Bram Stoker writes a vampire story. Don't forget, against the backdrop of Victorian prudishness, where there was every reason for him not to sound too obscene or explicit. And he's managed to get one of the most sexy scenes into that Victorian book. Now this girl, Mrs. Onion, this woman, does it by, as I said, by someone eyeing her up and, I don't know what you'd describe it as, catcalling. I suppose that's the closest term I could use. Unfortunately, the stranger at the station mistook my warning to back off as an invitation to come hither. Okay, that is quite funny, I admit. The stranger started hungrily... No, he didn't. The stranger stared hungrily at my legs the same way I used to lust for Danish pastries. And until the other night, back in the dressing room, I had continued harbouring doubts that I might not be a vampire. Of course you had. Sure, my fingernails had grown rapidly, and now proved so sharp I had cut myself while pulling on my underwear. My breasts had also changed. Does that usually happen to vampires? Your breasts change? But in any event, he sees her fangs, her new fangs. It says that she glides after him. I'm not sure whether that's hyperbole or not. She pounces on him and throws him about a bit, and then I watched him run further ahead, paced back and forth, enjoying my enhanced agility. I also kept watch to make certain no onlookers or security cameras were recording my activity. So she's throwing him about. You know, there's no, she doesn't lead him on, she doesn't seduce, she just runs after him and throws him about. But somehow he managed to extricate himself and get into a car. And then the stupid man drives straight back towards her. I thought to try and run her over, but no, he parks his car next to her. He runs away from her, gets into his car and drives straight back towards her and gets out with a baseball bat. "Freak," he yelled, "I'm gonna kill you." But when he tries to take aim with the bat, he misses and dents his car. I'm not going to repeat what he says. It's just interesting how, you know, she was treating the reader as though they were children by introducing new words. Now suddenly she's putting obscenities in there. Amazingly painful rage squelched any desire to curl into a fetal position. I growled a vibrating primal tone that would have made my human throat hurt. He's got a... yeah. In the resultant flurry of fists and fangs, I saw the gleam of his switchblade. Oh, he didn't go with that first. He ran away to get a wooden bat for... Do any of the people in this story have brains? When my jaw came unhinged, I suppose like a snake, it was not merely functional but powerful. Embracing my supernatural strength, I bit into the back of his neck with teeth that were sharper and stronger than diamonds. Human teeth would have broken when I crushed bone in his cervical spine, but I was no longer human. I was resurrected and majestic. Thus as he lay dying, after I gorged on my very first and satisfying meal. That's not a proper sentence, that's a fragment. Yeah, that's another problem in this whole thing. The punctuation and grammar is a little strange. True to my destiny, I fed on him until his lips were cold and dark, and I was more than satisfied. I had read enough vampire novels to know if I did not decapitate this man, he would rise again to make horrific chaos later, so I did what I had to do. She took his head off, basically. So yes, Bram Stoker or Mrs. Onion, you choose which is the better author. I giggled with the animated power that continued to course through me. I'd found the fountain of youth and it was energizing as a red, wet elixir. Okay, I must admit, that's quite a good sentence. Next, she goes to the library, and somebody there happens to notice that she's lost weight. There's an odd remark here. My great-grandmother had always said that big words seldom accomplish good deeds. Never heard that one before. And this girl went on to prove my grandmother right with the very next thing she said, "When I have admitted that your weight loss is admirable, I also wonder how you disburdened yourself of so much weight so expeditiously." She says it's a good diet, and this woman doesn't fully believe her. And so she sarcastically, but she misunderstands. Yeah, she says, "What's your secret?" So Mrs. Onion sarcastically replies that she used to kiss the invisible... She thinks she remembers her childhood bullies, and answers by saying that she used to kiss the invisible man, also known as her pillow, but that was back when she was a child. And then she's surprised when this woman looks puzzled. But it turns out that this woman just thought she was suffering from tapeworm, and that's why she's lost weight. Yeah, we're calling her Mrs. Crow, aren't we? Mrs. Onion is the author. Mrs. Crow is the name we're giving to the protagonist, of course, I should remember. Mrs. Crow of the Onion Patch, of course. That's what I knew. I'd pinned the right tail on the pale-haired girl's malarkey. That's a very odd way of saying pin the tail on the donkey, and it doesn't even really rhyme to make it work, but never mind. I felt very unnerved, and as she walks away, she comes to the kitchen and overhears two employees gossiping about her. That's her cliffhanger. Right, well, I've gone as far as I think I can stand to go up to this point. If you like it, I'll make another. Until that time, see ya.